we have a very interesting interview about validation circles in somatic practice. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more exclusive interviews like this. Today, we have with us Rafique and Nadia Qusaymiye. Rafique is the moderator of this event that is coming up, and Nadia is a somatic practitioner. And the event that they're holding is Resilient Hearts, Somatic Practice and Validation Circles. Rafique, Nadia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks for having us.
So my first question to you is, what was the catalyst? What was the spark that made you feel that you needed to put this program together? And why is it important to you?
The last 2 years, we've all been experiencing really with the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And all of us have been really dealing with very difficult emotions, seeing the ongoing onslaught, the suffering. And every one of us really struggled with the question, what is it that we can do to ease suffering? And Nadia and I, we've been having these discussions within our family and within our circles as well. And it's a very difficult question to ask. But then as we started to have more and more discussions, we found out that one area where we could contribute is to provide emotional support and validation for a lot of the feelings that many of us are feeling. There's a lot of great political activity that's happening, which is wonderful, and this is great. But one thing we noticed is that there is not enough attention paid to the emotional toll that what's happening is putting on us. And what I've observed is that it starts to really affect our interpersonal relationships, our even performance at work, and our relationship with our children. So we felt that this perhaps is an opportunity for us to discuss these topics. And given Nadia's background, she can speak more about that. She can shed more light about the importance of connecting with our bodies, understanding our emotions, and channel it in a positive way so we can move from reaction to intentional action. And that's really the whole catalyst behind it.
Yeah, and just to add to that is, when we had that question of what can we do, when we think about activism, sometimes we might think that that looks a certain way. But in order for us to answer that question, we had to actually look at what we can offer uniquely. And like Rafique said, that back to what do we do in our professional life that we can extend that and offer that to the community.
So let's expand on that a little bit. In your flyer, it mentions witnessing genocide. Talk to us a little bit how witnessing genocide, even from a distance, can actually affect the nervous system and the body.
That's true. Yes. So even as witnesses, and obviously we're not equating the two, being on the ground and witnessing. However, the mere act of witnessing does activate our body physiologically. So on a nervous system level, our fight, flight, freeze responses get activated, and it's a felt experience that we have. And because it's going on for a while, we want to say for years, but for a lot of us, this has been going on for many, many years, many generations. And because of this overlap and buildup of activation that doesn't necessarily deactivate and restore, a lot of people are experiencing exhaustion. A lot of people are experiencing burnout, emotional, mental, physical burnout. And that is the effect of witnessing crimes against humanity being committed. And if we don't pause, and especially that, as witnesses, not on the ground, we do have the privilege to take a pause and deactivate and restore so that we can keep showing up and that we can keep contributing because we are able to, as witnesses, not on the ground.
And this actually extends to people that are advocating and the potential of burnout, right?
Definitely. So being activated. So for example, if we see somebody getting injured or somebody going through emotional pain, what happens in the body is that our own threat detection system gets activated. And there's also mirror neurons being fired in our brain so that we are actually picking up on some of the pain that we're witnessing. And like I said, if this does not get deactivated and restored, that's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to emotional, mental, and physical burnout. So it's really important to bring in the nervous system piece, the nervous system regulation piece, in order to be able to, regulate and deactivate and restore. And that's one way of building resilience. So there's a point here that I want to mention, is that a lot of people view stress as something negative. However, we can use the stress to build resilience. And one way to do that is to, feel it fully, but then deactivate and restore in order to build that resilience. So a simple example could be, if you think about working out, you have to tear muscle to build muscle. So there has to be some sort of stress on the body to be able to build that strength. Now, if we're talking about stress and the nervous system, that works the same way. So we can use the stress, this activation that's happening in the body, to be able to build resilience from that. Obviously, we're not talking about the trauma piece here. We're talking about, as witnesses, feeling that stressful event as we are watching what's happening.
Tell us, for our viewers that aren't very familiar with somatic practice, why it's uniquely suited to deal with growing that capacity and expanding, dealing with emotions like grief, like stress, like you mentioned, or rage, in a helpful and meaningful way.
Yeah, so let me start by defining what somatic means, because that's a question that I get a lot, is what does somatic mean? So somatic, if we think about it, is the integrated lived experience that we have. So it is our whole mind-body experience as a holistic perspective. So that includes how our lived experience affects our thoughts, emotions, and actions. And that includes the way we attune to the body, to become aware of what's happening in and on and around the body. It includes the nature and the quality of our relationship, the relationship that we have for ourselves, with ourselves, the relationship that we have with others, and also with the world. So it's basically a bottom-up approach that deals with the dynamic interplay between psychology, so the way that we think and feel, and our physiology, the way that the body functions. And in my work, I focus on nervous system, specifically the autonomic nervous system, because that regulates so many different functions in the body. It regulates our heart rate, it regulates our body temperature, our breath, our digestive system, our immune system. So the nervous system actually has a hand in like so many different body functions. So targeting the nervous system and regulating that has a trickle down positive effect on all the functions of the body, including the mind. We strengthen the memory, our cognition, our decision making, the way we think, sharply and focus on so many different aspects that are valuable and important to us in any given moment. So somatic work is a bottom-up approach. We work with the physiology to shift the psychology, the way we feel and think about our lives and the world. So going back to the question of how does that, affect burnout, what we do here is we try to shift our breath patterns, for example. We try to shift our heart rate, for example, like by slowing down the breath, specifically slowing down the exhale. Just by doing that act alone, it shifts us from a sympathetic, which is a fight or flight response, more into a parasympathetic, which is a rest and digest response. And so this is kind of like a simple example of how shifting our physiology, shifting our breath pattern can have a psychological effect on our bodies. So we can get a deeper sense of safety and regulation, so that we are able to keep showing up and, for our families, for work, and for the community and this cause that we are showing up for.
And I think that's really important because, like you were mentioning, it's like building muscle where you tear the muscle and make it stronger. You're doing the same thing where people now can become more effective in their life, whether it's emotionally or physically or even socially. Rafiq, you moderated. This is the second circle that you are holding. You moderated the first one. Talk to us a little bit about how that went and how the reception was.
Yeah, we had our first session about a month ago. And when we set this up, we intended on doing this as a regular monthly circle for people to get together because practice is an important component of integrating these somatic elements into our lives, and not just attending a one-time session and just moving on. So it's important to do it as a monthly thing. Our initial session, we had about 15 people join us from different parts of the world, which is great. And this is intended to be a global initiative for those who are interested and available to join. And it's open to virtually anyone, and it's not necessarily restricted to Palestinians or activists per se. This is really for professionals, for students, for allies, for solidarity partners, for anyone who is affected by what's happening in the genocide, and they feel they want to show up better in their own personal lives and continue to contribute in a positive way, while being able to process and regulate their nervous system. It was a great participation, and we are intending on continuing this momentum, and inshallah we'll continue this as a monthly circle, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so our next session is coming up actually this Sunday, November the 30th at 2 p.m. We have the information for registration. We can certainly share it with you for the registration link. What we ask participants to do is to register the name and email address and be part of our mailing list, where we can then send them information, not just to log into the call, but also have follow-up notes and even follow-up practices. So the intent is to create a community there. So be happy to share the registration link. We can send it to you and can share it with the viewers, of course. And our vision long-term is to maintain this as a validation circle where we'll create a community of people who have an understanding of somatic practice, and more importantly, integrate it into their lives and help them become more effective people, whether they're professionals or activists or even students, and hopefully move them from a state of reaction into intentional action that would help us change the reality that we're living in, inshallah.
I love that. That's very powerful. Moving people from a state of reaction to a state of being proactive and ready for any of the emotions they're about to experience. Rafique, Nadia, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. Really appreciate it. And good luck on your next circle.